archiving means we'll see, depends upon our requirement. Okay, so first of all we'll complete how to archive the files and how we transfer the files from one machine to another machine through network. That means backup. Okay, so first of all we need to archive. So how to archive the files? We'll see. Archiving, compression, both are same lesson. So compressing and archiving. So using that. Archive file means, so do you know WinRAR file in Windows? WinRAR software in Windows. So like the same way here we'll have the tab to archive the files. So we are trying to making one bundle, so multiple files into the one file. See, simple guys. So why we should archive these files in a sense? For example, you are sending the data to your friend, maybe. So you are trying to sending the data to your friend. Okay, yeah, zip and archive. So zip is a different and archive is different. Okay, so I'll tell you. So now you are trying to sending the 10 files to your friend through mail. How you are going to send these 10 files? We are going to create one archive. We are going to create one archive. We are going to add this archive file into the mail, and we are sending the data to them. So instead of sending the 10 files, what I'm doing is I'm trying to sending only one file, and then we are compressing this file's data. So while you are sending the data, so from one machine to another machine through network. So for example, the data size is 1 GB. It will take some time, like 1 GB bandwidth it will take. So 1 Gbps bandwidth it will take to send the data from one machine to another machine. Yes. So instead of sending the 1 GB data, if you are sending the like 500 MB data, then the low bandwidth, and then we can able to send the data very easily from one machine to another machine through network. Yes. If you're compressing the data, we can able to send little bit quickly compared to actual data sets. Okay. So how we need to compress, how we need to archive the files, we'll see. So generally we'll have WinRAR into Windows. It's a one third-party application. Using WinRAR, we are going to create the archives into the Windows. So coming to Linux, and then we'll have one file, one command called tar. Using the tar, so we are going to archive the file. Tar is a command. So okay. So tar, so like WinRAR in Windows. So we'll have the tar command. Using the tar command, we are going to create the archive or archive, whatever you want to get say. Okay. So now I'm trying to creating some archive files. So first of all, I'm creating few files. So using cat command. So cat, so greater than, for example, file 1. Okay. So I'm writing this as a Linux class. Okay. And then Control D to save the file. Again, I'm creating one more file. So cat file 2, and I'm writing here, hello, how are you? So hello, how are you? Control D to save the file. So now cat, I'm creating one more file. So cat file 1 and then file 2 greater than file 3. I'm concatenating these files. So how many files we'll have here? So we'll have file 1, file 2 and file 3. So now these 3 files I'm going to archive. So how to archive this 3 file into the one file? So let's see here. Okay. So tar is a command. Guys, tar is a command. So to create the archive. So tar, then, so we need to provide options. C to create the archive. C to create the archive. Okay. C, V, verbose, F, file name. V is optional, guys. If you want, you can use, otherwise you can leave it. There is no issues. But C and F is a mandatory. C, F is a mandatory. C, creating the archive. F, file name. So here, so we need to provide the destination file name first of all. Okay. So I'm trying to providing the myfile.tar is extension. You can use any name. but it should have .tar extension. It should have so .tar extension. Clear? So my file .tar extension we should have. Okay. Then to whom we need to archive inside the my file.tar file. Okay. So I'm trying to archive file 1, then file 2, then file 3. So I'm trying to creating the one bundle. That means using these 3 files, I'm trying to creating these 3 files. So into one bundle. That means one file. So that. So let's verify. See here. So one file it got created. The file name is myfile.tar. Myfile.tar. I need to like know the content of this myfile.tar. Okay. So how to know the content? So tar. Okay. So T and F. T means to list out the files. To list out the file, T we should use. Okay. So C compress. You can say archive to create archive. V verbose, it will print the warning messages. Okay, like this, it will print the message. F file name. F file name. So this is file name. Okay. So now here I need to list out this myfile.tar file. Okay. So T to list out F file name. So file name myfile.tar. So inside the myfile.tar, so how many files will have? 3 files will have. So file 1, file 2, and file 3. So I hope you got it, guys. So this is a way you can create the archive file. So using multiple files, okay? You can create the multiple file into the one file. So this is a tar file. This is a tar file. So clear? So can we create the the directory archive? TF means list. T means list. F file name. So we'll have the ls-l commander to list out the directory content like the same way. To list out the tar file content tf. Tar tf. So tar tf, and then we need to provide the file name. So how many files and directories we'll have inside the myfile.tar, it is going to list out. Okay. So I hope you clear how to create the archive. So now can we able to create the archive for directories? Yes, we can able to create the archive for directories also, not only for files. Okay. So let's see here. So now how to check the size of the directory, guys? How to check the size? So how to check the size? So du-h, that's it, no? So du-h, disk usage human readable format. So etc. So etc is a directory. How much size will have? 33 MB will have. So etc having n number of the configuration files. Total size of the etc is 33 MB. I need to archive this etc directory. So can we archive? Yes, we can archive. So how to archive this etc directory? It's very simple. Tar. Okay. So tar. Then. So guys. Then here we need to provide the options. CF is enough. V doesn't require. If you want to give the V, there is no issues. CF is enough. Okay. Then I need to provide the file name. That means destination file name we need to provide first of all. Okay. So you can give any name. So okay, I'm providing etc.tar, but you should have the extension called .tar. And to whom we are trying to archiving. So inside the root we'll have the directory called etc. So then hit enter. So it will take bit time. So as it got created, see here etc.tar directory, like etc.tar file it got created. So now let's check the size of this etc.tar. So here the actual size is etc directory size 33 MB. If I creating the tar files, so 29 MB. So only few of the amount it got compressed. Okay. I hope you got it, guys. Hyphen doesn't require in RHEL 7.0. Just you can directly give the option. If you're using 6.0 in older version, then you can add hyphen in front of the options. Okay. Akhil. So here hyphen doesn't require. So 29 MB got compressed. Actual size of the ETC is 33 MB. Now I create one tab file. The tab file size is 29 MB. So it's not that much of big compression. I need to compress more. I'm going to add few options related to zip commands. Okay. So how to use this option along with the tar? So let's see here. So tar C compress Z F gzip. Z means gzip. Then you can give any name. Tar dot GZ is extension. Guys, if you're using small z option, you should provide this extension tar.cz. Then finally, we need to provide the directory to whom we need to compress. So I'm trying to compressing again etc directory /etc directory. Then hit enter. Yes. So let's check. See, etc tar.cz file got created. Now let's check the size of the gz. So etc tar.gz. So actual size of the etc is 33 MB. Now it became 8.2 MB. So I hope you got it. Guys. So 8.2 MB. It got compressed more than 60%. Yes. So actual size is 33 MB. Okay. So it got compressed. Now the file size is 8.2 MB now. Okay. I need to compress more. So we'll have few more options. So let's see here. Tar C J F small j. Then same file etc tar dot bz2 is extension. Guys, you need to remember the extensions here. Okay. If I'm using small z, you should use this extension tar.gz. So if I'm using small j, you need to use the extension for destination file tar.bz2. Then same directory I'm trying to compress it. So why I'm using same directory? We need to understand like so what type of options if I'm using, so it is going to compress more. Okay. So now let's check the list. See, one more file got created, etc tar.bz. So now let's check the size of the etc tar.bz. 6.9 MB. If I'm using small z, then it became 8.2 MB. If I'm using small j, it became 6.9 MB. The actual size of the etc is 33 MB. Okay. And we'll have the one more option. Let's see here. Tar C capital JF. So etc dot xz you should use. If you use small j option, so you should provide this extension tar dot xz to whom? So for etc directory. So let's check the list. ls-l. See here. So one more file got created, etc tar.xz. Let's check the size of the etc tar.xz. See, 5.6. So I hope you got it, guys. So how to archive the file with the help of tar command? Yes. How to extract? We'll see later. So now we'll see how to transfer the file from one mission to another mission through network. And if I'm transferring the file from one mission to another mission, I'm going to extract into the another mission. Got it, guys? So like real time. So I'm compressing the file into this mission. I'm sending this file through network into the another mission. So there I'm going to extract. Clear? I hope you got it. So now how to transfer the file from one mission to another mission? So let's see here. So first of all, we should have the proper network between both the missions. I need one more mission here. So I'm going to switch on this demo mission. And then, so I need to assign the IP addresses. So I doesn't have, I'm trying to assigning the IP address for this mission. So static network I'm creating here. Static IP address I'm assigning, not network. Isolated network, okay? Okay, so we need to change the settings. Go to settings, so you should keep custom EMNet 0. So instead of that, you want to keep custom EMNet 0, okay? But for second mission doesn't require, I will reset the second mission, okay? So try to ping with, let's see, login into demo. So just check the communication between the both the missions. Okay, so now let's see here. So ping 192.168.1.11. Yes, I'm getting the reply. So go to here. Just ping with 192.168.1.12. Yes, okay. So both the missions having the communication. So we can able to ping with one mission to another mission. Okay. So now how to transfer the files from server to client mission? Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll create one directory here. So mkdir, okay, backup is a directory name. So inside the root, I was created one directory called backup. So I'm going to send this all the files into the backup directory through network from server to client. Okay, so how to send? Guys, we'll have one tool called SCP to send the file from one mission to another mission through network. Okay, SEP, secure copy. Okay, we'll have one WinSCP. I think like who's doing AWS for them, I think they know about WinSCP to transfer the files from our local mission to cloud mission. Yes, so like the same way here, we'll have the SCP. So secure copy. So by default, we'll have this SCP in our operating system, in our Linux operating system. So now I'm trying to transferring the file. So from server mission to client mission. So how to transfer? We should use SCP command. We should use SCP command. And then to whom we need to transfer? So etc tar.gz. So I'm transferring etc tar.gz file to whom? 192.168.1.12 / root. Inside the root, we'll have the directory called backup. It's very simple, guys. SCP, then provide the file name. So to whom? To which file we need to transfer? So this file I'm trying to transfer into this mission. So this is 192.168.1.12. Inside the 192.168.1.12 mission, we'll have the root directory. Inside the root, we'll have the backup directory. I'm trying to send this file into the backup directory. Then you can check. Guys, your SSH, it should be proper, then only so we can able to transfer the files from one mission to another mission through network using SCP command. Okay, so yes, we should use. So I'm getting one error, permission denied. So why we are getting this error, guys? Permission denied error we are getting. Why? Yesterday we blocked the permission for everyone in client mission. Yes. Yesterday while we are doing SSH task at the time, I block the permission for each and every people. So I need to allow, then only we can able to transfer the data. Go to the client mission. open the etc ssh d underscore conf, and here password authentication I kept no yesterday. Guys, we should do into the client machine. This changes we need to do into the client machine, okay? Password authentication S, then go a little bit down. So actually we'll have by default S here. We'll have by default S. Go to the root user, like root permissions. Here also you need to keep S, okay? Then save and quit. Then restart the SSHD service. So restart the SSHD service. So go to server, then try again this command. So again, you need to try this command scp. So etc.start.gz, scp etc.gz, then 192.168.1.12 /root backup. Then hit enter. Then it will ask the password. We need to provide password. See. Successfully we transfer etc.gz to another mission. So in another mission, like we'll have the root, inside the root we'll have the backup directory. So 100% it will transfer. So go to demo, then let's verify. So cd backup, then check the list. See. So I didn't create any files into the backup directory. It's an empty directory backup. I transferred the one file from server mission to client mission. The file name is etc.tar.cz. So I hope you're clear, guys. So how to transfer the files from one mission to another mission using SCP. Clear? So yes, no. Go to server. Then we'll have one more command to transfer the file from one mission to another mission. That is SFTP, Secure File Transmission Protocol. Secure File Transmission Protocol, SFTP. Then we need to provide the IP address or host name of the destination mission. Then here we need to provide the root user password. You will get like this prompt, SFTP. So it's connecting to 192.168.1.12. Okay, we'll have two commands, put and get in SFTP. So not only in SFTP, in BSFTP also we'll have the put and get command. Put means we are transferring the data from one mission to another mission through network. Get means we are going to fetch the data from destination mission to source mission. Destination mission to source mission. Clear? So now I'm transferring the data. Which command I should use? I need to use put command. PUT, put, get. Okay, put and get. So put is a command I need to use to transfer the data from one mission to another mission. First of all, we need to switch the directory. CD backup. Okay, CD backup. We can use directly CD command. There is no issues. We are into backup now. Okay, if you want, you can check the list. So inside the backup directory, we'll have the etc.gz. Okay. Now, put command we should use. Then I'm trying to transferring one file etc.bz2 file. So clear, guys. Then you don't. See, uploading etc.bz2 into root backup. 100% it will transfer. So if you want, you can go to demo mission. Clear, guys? If you want, you can go to the demo mission. Then check the list here. See. Got it? So one more file we transfer with the help of SFTP. Now what I'm doing, since I'm creating one file here, cat abcd. Sorry. So I'll do touch. I'll use touch. That's okay. So for verification, touch abcd. One file I was created into root backup. Now I'm going to fetch this file from destination mission to source mission. Okay. So go to here. Then get is a command. ABCD is a file name. Then hit enter. That's it. See here. Fetching root backup ABCD to ABCD. Okay. Now exit from this SFTP. So back to the server, check the list, see. We fetch this ABCD file from client mission to server. Got it, guys? I hope you're clear. So very simple. SFTP, and then we need to provide the destination mission IP address or host name to connect. After connecting, then you can use put and get command. Put is a command to transfer the file from server to like source to destination. So get is a command to fetch the files from destination to source. Clear? I hope you got it, guys. Yes, no? So like this, you can transfer the file using SCP and as well as SFTP. Clear? Now we'll have the one more command. We'll have one more command to transfer the data from one mission to another mission. So here we'll have one command called rsync. R-S-Y-N-C. Rsync is a command. So it's similar like SCP. So how we use SCP command, like the same way the rsync also it will work. Okay. So now rsync -av all var-bos. Okay. I'm transferring the data etc tar.exec to whom 192. So we should provide the host name or IP address. Okay. 1.12:/root, then backup direct. Then we should provide the password. Yes. So sending incremental files list. Okay. So etc tar.exec. So these many files we sent. So they received, and like this we're getting the message. So let's see. Got it? So I hope you're clear, guys. How to archive the files, how we need to send the files from one mission to another mission using SCP, then SFTP and rsync. So clear? You can use root also. There is no issues. Root means, so directly it is going to send to the root user. Akhil, you are logging as a root user now. Any directory can use. Any directory. It depends upon your requirement. But the directory should into the particular mission. Okay? So please make a note. See, what is the difference between WinRAR and then WinZip? Milan. The difference between WinRAR and WinZip. WinRAR, it's one type of bundle. Yes, we are trying to collecting some data. We are trying to making one bundle. Yes, WinZip, we are compressing the files. So archiving and compressing, both we can do with the help of tar command using few options. Okay. So I hope you're clear, guys. So next, how to extract this file. Okay. So how to extract? So let's see. Go to the client mission. So how we need to extract? Let's see. So tar, guys. Apart from C, we need to give X. That's it. That means extracting. Okay. So tar X. Okay. Z F. So instead of C, we should give X. That's it, guys. X. So we need to extract which file? X, Z, F. Then etc. Z means which extension I should give. Which extension I should give, guys? X, Z, F. So etc. GZ, no? Then hit enter. Then check the list, see. So one directory got extract. So I extract this GZ file. So it got extract and then directory got created. So let's check the size of this etc. 33. So I hope you're clear, guys, how to extract. Okay. So now I'm deleting this directory again. So etc directory I'm deleting because if I'm extracting another files, like it is going to override because of that reason. I doesn't have any etc directory here. Okay. So now I'm going to extract. Okay. Again, I'm trying to extracting another file. So tar xjf. So etc tar dot bz2. So again it got extracted, then again it got created. So you can check the size of this etc. The same directory we created archive for same directory because of that reason. So we'll have the 33. I'm removing again. So etc. Then tar, I'm extracting this another file. Tar capital JF. That's it. X capital JF etc tar dot exit. See, again it got created. So let's check the size. So I hope you're clear. So this is a way you can extract the files. I compress the file into the server machine. I transfer this file through network into the client machine. In client, I was extracting. Okay. So I hope you're clear, guys. So how to extract the files? So like this. You need to extract. Okay. So this is all about archiving and how to take the backup from one mission to another mission through network. No guys, so zip and tar are both different commands. So we'll have, so gzip command will have gzip, but using tar command you can archive and you can zip both. We can do it at a time. So these options will have now. See here. Go to man command, man tar. See. So see here. Go a little bit down. Here, generally we're going to use this option. Small j, bz2. Capital J, xz. Z, gzip. Okay. So I hope you're clear. Can use zip command also. So gzip will have, so to unzip will have command, so to unzip, so to extract the files. So both are different, but we'll have the option for tar command. Directly you can use tar, you can zip, like you can compress, you can zip the files. That means you can archive, you can compress the files both at the time. Okay. So I hope you're clear. Okay, this is all about archiving and compressing the files. So how to transfer the data from one mission to another mission through network. Okay. So can we start another chapter? So like so boot process, how to recover the root password both PC. Okay. So boot process. How many people you know Windows boot process, guys? Yes. How many people you know Windows boot process? Don't know? Okay. So no shows, I'll tell you. So how, so I'm trying to informing to you people how the like Windows it is going to boot. Okay. So yes, some people they know. Okay. So you know a little bit. Okay, good. So now, how the Windows it will boot? So how you need to start the file size wise? So you need to start the files into the particular directory. You can use find command using size wise. So time wise, and then size wise also you can. So we'll have the option for option in LS. I think yes, something will have the option. So go to man LS and size wise you need to sort now. So here we need to provide the size. Hyphen B hyphen block hyphen size is equal to, so we should provide the size here. Got it? So I hope you're clear, Sachin. Otherwise, hyphen S option you can do. It will print size wise. Particular size you need to find out in the sense you should give hyphen block hyphen size is equal to a particular size of the file. Okay. So generally, if you're providing the hyphen S option, then it will print the like size. Okay. So it's not a big deal, guys. If you're thinking to know the like new option, use man command. We'll have the whole options there. Small s hyphen small s we should use. Okay. So I'll show you. Let's see. See like this. Size wise, it is going to print. Okay. So if you want, you can use ls hyphen ls also. Okay. Size wise, it is going to print. Clear? Okay, so let's see here. So we'll do boot process of the Windows. Okay. So first of all, you need to understand the like boot process of Windows. Okay. So then we'll discuss about RHEL 6.0 boot process and 7.0. Both are different, guys. We'll have small difference, not much more differences we'll have between 6.0 and 7.0 because the first process ID got changed now because of that reason. Okay. So let's concentrate, guys. So how many people you know ROM? ROM. Read-only memory. How many people you know ROM, guys? ROM, ROM. Read-only memory. So where it got located? In IC. Integrated chip. ROM. So ROM is of an IC, guys. One small IC, integrated chip. Where it got located in the sense? It got located on top of the motherboard. On top of the motherboard. Okay? No. Not hard disk, Mahipal. ROM is a read-only memory. It's a one single chip. One small chip will have. So IC, you can say integrated chip. So this integrated chip, it got located on top of the motherboard. So do you know motherboard? In our mission, we'll have the motherboard, main board. So on top of the motherboard, somewhere we'll have the ROM. Okay? Clear? Inside the ROM, we'll have some memory. Read-only memory. RAM and ROM. Random access memory, read-only memory. This read-only memory is a one chip. That is simple. I think most of the people you're using smart mobiles, yes? Smart mobiles. Where you are installing your Android operating system in your mobile, do you have the hard disk? So do you have hard disk, guys, in your mobile? No. We'll have one firmware. Firmware. That means the memory it got located into the one IC, integrated chip. In that memory itself only, we are trying to installing the Android operating system into our Android mobiles. Got it? We doesn't have any hard disk in mobile. We'll have the memory cards, that is for external memory, guys. We are going to store our personal data into the memory cards, not operating system related data. Yes, the operating system where it will store inside the one firmware, we need to call that is firmware. So like the firmware is a ROM. IC, integrated chip. So integrated chip. The integrated chip, it got located on top of the motherboard. Inside the ROM, will have one software called BIOS. You can say it's a one firmware. Okay, it's a one firmware. It's called BIOS, Basic Input Output System. So BIOS, BIOS. Okay. Inside the BIOS, we can able to get all the information related to, all the information related to our system. So what type of processor we are using, how much RAM will have, so whether the hard disk is detected or not, so whether my NSE card working or not, everything we can able to get the details related to physical components into the BIOS. Okay. So now, how we need to start the system, guys? How you are going to start the system? Hmm? Yes. How to start the system? First action, post, power on self test. Post. We need to power on, first of all. So how you are going to start the system without power? So we should do power on self test. Post. The first action is post. So power on self test. Okay. That's it. We need to press the power button, then we need to start. That is called power on self test. So technically we are calling. So if you switch on the machine, automatically the machine it will check how many components it got connected and everything. It is going to check the self test. Okay. So it will do self test. Okay. Next action. It will start. Then it is going to enter into the BIOS. Inside the BIOS, we'll have the one option called boot. Inside the boot, we'll have the first boot device. Okay. So inside the first boot device, we'll have the bootable files. So the bootable files it will load. The bootable files it will load. That is called BSL. Boot stamp loader. Boot stamp loader. Clear? So boot stamp loader. The second action is a boot stamp loader. Third action. Boot stamp loader only. Okay. The next third action. After loading the bootable files, the system it will start. Finally, drivers it will load. So each and every component having few drivers. Yes. So it's a one software. So it is connecting to the hardware and then interface. That means our operating system. So that is called drivers. So for example, so you need to configure the printer. We should install the printer software. So that is called printer driver. Okay, drivers are software for the printer. Okay. So we need to install the printer drivers. And drivers it will load. And finally, we'll get the proper operating system. Got it? So this is a boot process of the Windows. Clear? If you want, you can make a note. Okay. So this is a boot process of the Windows. Clear? Next. So now we'll see RHEL 6.0 boot process. RHEL 6.0 boot process. So let's see guys here. So this is RHEL 6.0 boot process. Okay. So let's see. The same. So how we need to start the Linux machine, guys? So we should switch on the power on the machine. Then only it will start. The first action always post on power on self test. And after that, it is going to enter into the BIOS. So BIOS will form. So basic input output system. Okay, so it will enter into the BIOS. It will search MBR, a master boot record. The BIOS, so it will execute the MBR. Okay, MBR stands for master boot record. Clear, guys? Post and then BIOS. Inside the so BIOS it will execute the MBR, master boot record. So the bootable file it will be located inside the MBR itself. Okay. So MBR, it will execute the grub, guys, because it's RHEL 6.0. This is RHEL 6.0 boot process. And RHEL 6.0 by default will have the grub. Okay. So by default will have grub. So MBR, it will execute the grub. Okay. So grub having kernel images. the grub, what it will do in the sense, so grub is a one directory, so it contains kernel images, init RDFS images, init RAMFS images, okay. So now the grub, it will execute the kernel, okay. So kernel is a part of the operating system, it's a core operating system, so clear. So it's a one piece of software. No, no guys, so it's not for same. I don't know much about Windows and Mac, but in RHEL 6.0 this is a boot process, so I don't know much about Windows and Mac, okay. So clear. So grub, it will execute the, I think the Mac boot process, I think similar. So I don't know what type of bootloader it having inside the Mac, because I didn't use the Mac operating system, okay. So grub, it will execute the kernel. So the kernel having init levels, executes run level programs. See, I said Windows boot process, and compared to Windows, Linux is a different. Okay. So always different. So we'll have the only 3 steps into the Windows. Okay. So kernel, it will execute the init. So init levels. So init, it will execute run levels. So this 6 steps will have into the RHEL 6.0. So MBR, first post, after post, it will enter into the BIOS. Inside the BIOS, will have the MBR. Inside the, the BIOS, it will execute the MBR. So MBR, it will execute the grub, and then grub, it will execute kernel. A kernel, it will execute init. So according to our level, so that means, so for example, coming to init run levels, we'll have init 0, init 1, init 2, init 3, init 4, init 5, init 6. 6 run levels will have. So according to our requirement, for example, so you need a graphical mode, so we need to keep init 4 inside the one configuration file. I will show you, don't worry, but we'll have the, it doesn't have the RHEL 6.0 operating system, but theoretically I will show you, don't worry, okay. So let's see here, we'll get some information, detailed information about BIOS. So what is BIOS? So BIOS stands for basic input output system. So perform some system integrity checks. That means we'll have some, like whether the devices it got detected or not, we can able to check here using the BIOS. So how to enter into the BIOS, you know very well. So using function keys. So depends upon motherboard manufacturers. So we'll have few function keys to enter into the BIOS. Okay. So BIOS executes the MBR. So MBR, coming to MBR, it's a master boot records. MBR stands for master boot record. Okay. So coming to MBR, it got divided into 3 components. The MBR total size is 512 bytes. Not MBs, guys, bytes. 512 bytes, less than 512 bytes. This 512 bytes, it got divided into 3 components again. So one is primary bootloader information. The primary bootloader information, 446 bytes for primary bootloader information. Okay. So partition table information. That means so partition tables. If you try to creating the partition, so we'll have the partition table SDA1, SDA2, SDA3, SDA4, like this partition table will have now. So for that 64 bytes. So MBR validation check 2 bytes. MBR, so validation check, so 2 bytes. So that means you can say in numbers SDA1, SDA2, SDA3 will have a number. So that is MBR validation check numbers. So okay, so 512 bytes, total 512 bytes. It got divided into 3 components. One, primary boot loader information, first 446, and the next partition table information, next 64 bytes, and then MBR validation check at least 3 bytes. Last 2 bytes here. Okay, so guys, if you go to like older version, so like before 6.0, we'll have 5.0, 4.0, 3.0, 2.0 version. So that version doesn't have the grub. So instead of grub, we'll have the LIL in older version. Linux loader. Already this information I was given to you people while I'm teaching the file system hierarchy in the starting class itself. So LIL, so Linux loader. So Linux loader, clear? So now the MBR, it will execute the grub. So grub will form ground unified bootloader. Ground unified bootloader. So there's a grub. So grub contain kernel images. So kernel images, guys. So while you're rebooting the machine, you'll get the kernel version here. See here. So I'll show you. I'm going to reboot this. So how do reboot? Let's go and then restart this. Okay. So restart this. Okay. So see here, it is rebooting. This is kernel image, guys. The first one. The first one. Red Hat Enterprises Linux server with Linux 3.10 is a kernel. So I need to select this kernel, then we will get the operating system. So we are selecting the kernel, then we are getting the operating system. So according to that kernel, okay. So inside the grub it will execute the kernel. So the kernel it is going to display on top of the desktop. We need to choose the kernel image. So in which operating system we need to enter. For example, if you're installing multiple operating systems, guys, in one laptop, I'm installing Linux and as well as Windows. So I need to choose one operating system. Yes. How you're going to choose? With the help of kernel images. So it will display to us on top of the monitor. So we should choose using the navigation keys. So who's going to provide this in the sense? Grub it is going to provide. So we are going to add the kernel image inside the grub configuration file. So this is our grub configuration file. Boot grub.conf. So otherwise you can go to etc grub.conf also, both are same. So here we need to add the kernel images according to our requirement. If we are trying to installing the dual root operating system, so they are already by default will have a kernel image. We need to add the new kernel image here. Okay. While you are trying to installing the multiple operating system into the one laptop at the time. Okay. Then kernel we need to select. We need to execute the kernel. So according to init level. So we'll get the environment. So by default, if you having 5, not 4 guys, actually I said 4 before, not 4, like 5, if you having 5 init level, we'll get the graphical mode. So if you having 3, you'll get the full multi-user mode. That means CLI mode. Okay. So where we should have this? Inside the etc init tab in RHEL 6.0 in older version. In RHEL 6.0 in older version, we'll have the etc init tab. Inside the etc init tab, so we should have the option like 3. If you having the 3, you will get the CLI mode guys. If you have the 5, you will get the GUI mode. 0 alt, that means shutdown. So 1 single user mode. 2 multi-user without NFS. 3 full multi-user mode. 4 unused mode. 5 graphical mode. X11 means extenders mode. 6 reboot. If I'm executing this command, automatically this file it is going to execute. For example, if I'm executing init 0, so this file it is going to execute. The run level it is going to execute. If I'm executing init 1, so this file it is going to execute. So finally, we'll get the operating system, and so we can use your operating system according to your requirement. So I hope you're clear, guys. This is a good process of the RHEL 6.0. Clear? So I hope you got it. So yes, no. So we'll see RHEL 7.0 boot process. Okay, RHEL 7.0 boot process. So we doesn't have the much difference. We have the few differences because the first process ID got changed because of that. Okay. So don't worry, I will share this file. Don't worry. Okay. So tomorrow I'm going to share this file. Okay. So BIOS, same guys, we need to post for on self-test, then BIOS. So BIOS executes MBR. MBR executes grub2 guys here, not grub. So MBR executes grub2. Ground Unified Bootloader version 2. Okay. So version 2, grub2 having, so virtual kernel images, virtual Linux, VM Linux kernel images, and then init RAMFS images. Okay. So this grub2 it will execute kernel. So kernel it having the systemd. The first process ID in RHEL 7.0 onwards, it's a systemd. So systemd, so it will execute the default target. Guys, so we should not call any run levels here. From RHEL 7.0 onwards, in RHEL 7.0 as well as in 8.0, so we need to call, I'm coming again, okay? So we need to call targets. Clear? So initram fs in the sense, this initram fs, it is useful for us to start to load the operating system, the bootloaders. That means the first sector of the hard disk. Got it? So I will show you, we'll have the description also, don't worry, okay? So system D. So system D, it will execute the target according to our requirement. So system D is going to execute the target. So we'll have four types of targets. Multi-user target, that means CLI mode, graphical target, graphical mode, rescue target, and emergency target. So do you know safe mode Windows, guys? Safe mode in Windows. So for example, if we are having some problem with the Windows operating system, we're going to troubleshoot to enter into the safe mode. So we need to enter into the safe mode. In the sense, we should use F8 key in Windows to enter into the safe mode. Like the same way, here we'll have the rescue mode and then emergency mode to troubleshoot. Okay. So by default, we'll have graphical target. Graphical target by default will have. If you want to change the target according to your requirement as a multi-user also. While you try to starting the machine at the time, you need a like CLI mode. You need to keep the multi-user target, then you will get the CLI mode. So while you are starting the machine, you require graphical mode. So we need to keep graphical target. Okay. So I hope you're clear, guys. I'll show you practically. Don't worry. Okay. So BIOS, you know, it's a one firmware. So how to enter into the BIOS and everything already we know this. So using some function keys, the BIOS executes the MBR. So master boot record. The master boot record total 512 bytes will have. See, total 512 bytes. So first component for bootloader 446 byte, and then partition table 64 byte and magic numbers. Okay, for 2 bytes. Clear? And then MBR, it will execute the grub2. So grub2 bootloader. So ground unified bootloader. So version 2. That's the latest version. So there's a grub configuration file. It's a grub. So configuration file grub2 stands. So default bootloader program using the on RHEL7 is grub2. Okay. So now this is a bootloader. There's a bootable file. So boot grub2 grub.conf. So here we'll have one caution. Do not edit this file directly. Okay. So don't edit this file. Okay. So etc default grub. So this is also you can open. There is no issues if you open. So it will be looking like this. Here we can able to find out the kernel images, and then so according to our requirement we can modify. So after modifying, then we need to execute this command. So grub2 -mkconfig-o. So boot grub2 grub.conf. We should execute this command. Then only it will apply. Okay. So like systemctl restart will have. So like the same way here we'll have the so grub2-mkconfig-0 -o, not 0. Okay, grub2-mkconfig-o. So boot grub2 grub.conf. Okay, so next. So see here, so RAM disk. So init RD. So init RAM files. So the job of the initial RAM files. So to preload the block device models. That is, it may be IDE, it may be SCSI, it may be RAID. So that means we are using IDE only, na? Integrated device electronic. In our laptop, we'll have the like SATA or IDE. So we are the hard disk model. It is going to like that means it is going to detect the mount points and then it is going to start the machine. I hope you got it, Akhil. Init RAM FS mesh. Okay. Now it will execute the kernel, and then kernel it will execute the system D. System D it having the default target. According to this default target, we'll get the mode. It may be graphical mode, it may be CLI. Got it? Everything it will load. So host name, network, like SC Linux policies, banners, everything it is going to do. So clear? This is a boot process of RHEL 7.0. So now let's see here how to change the targets. How to change the targets? Let's see now. So how to know the target? Systemctl get hyphen default. See. So by default we'll have the graphical dot target. Okay. So by default we'll have graphical dot target. So I'm trying to change the target now. So systemctl set hyphen default. Here guys. Systemctl set hyphen default multi-user target. The target did not change. Now check. See, before we'll have the graphical target. Now it became multi-user target. Okay. So let's reboot the machine. Guys, I hope you're getting. Yes. Guys, do you have any doubts, any questions? Yes, no. See here. If I reboot the machine, by default, we're getting CLI mode. So you can log in with root user and provide the root user credentials. So now like systemctl, the default. So now set the. Next we'll have the isolated command. So without set the like permanent target, so you can isolate it also. Okay, isolate graphical target. So you can isolate. You can switch from CLI mode to GUI. So, but if you reboot the like machine automatically, again you will get the CLI mode. Okay. So let's see here. I'm rebooting the machine again. So automatically you will get the CLI mode because the default target will have multi-user target. We having multi-user target. If you reboot the machine, you will get the CLI mode. Okay. Systemctl. Okay. So now to change the target, set hyphen default multi-user target. So now I'm trying to rebooting. By default, we'll get to that. So I hope you're clear, guys. How to change the targets? Set default, get default. Set default and get default. What happened? Systemctl. 1 minute on that. Root. Systemctl. Okay, still we'll have the multi-user. Set from default graphical targets. Okay, now we'll get the graphical. See here, we got a graphical mode. Okay. So like this, you can change the targets, guys. Get default and set default. Okay. So if you require, I'll keep it still. Okay. So now, how to go to the emergency target? How we need to enter the emergency target? Okay. Guys, please concentrate. Reboot the machine. While it is rebooting, so at the time it will show you kernel image here. Then here we need to press E, small e key. So while you are trying to rebooting, so while you are starting the mission, at the time it will show you kernel image there. So kernel version it will show you. And at the time we need to use E key. So we should use E key. Okay. Then you will get like this screen. So then you will get like this screen. So find out Linux 16 line, guys. So find out Linux 16 line. Okay. So Linux 16, go to the end of the line. So use end key. End button will have the end key will have in our keyboard. Use end key. Then, so we should write here system d.unit unit is equal to rescue.target. That's it, guys. So you need to reboot the machine. So I have tried to enter into the rescue mode, guys. That means you can say it's a one safe mode to doing like for doing the troubleshooting. Okay. So now how we need to enter into the rescue mode? We need to reboot the machine. So after rebooting, we'll get the kernel image. There we need to press E key, small E key. Then you will get like the screen. So using the navigation keys, you can find out the Linux 16 line. You can find out the Linux 16 line. Go to the end of the line. Don't use enter, guys. Just you can type systemd.unit is equal to rescue mode or emergency mode. Depends upon your requirement. If you want, you can go to the rescue mode, and if you want, you can go to the emergency mode. Okay. If you go to the emergency mode, we'll have the read-only permission for root also. Okay. Rescue mode having the read and write permission. Apart from root, remaining peoples they are unable to modify the system settings with the rescue mode. Okay. So then Control X, guys. So then Control X. Okay. So press E. Then find Linux 16 line. Okay. Go to end of the line. Okay. Go to the end of the line. Then add systemd.unit is equal to rescue.target. Then, okay, guys, Control plus X. Then you will get like the screen. We should provide the root user password. See, we'll get the root prompt. Here you can do the troubleshooting. Again, you need to back to the normal mode. That means graphical mode. Control D you need to use. Control D. Control D. Sorry. Control D. Then we are back to the GUI mode again. So clear? So Control D, CTRL plus D to GUI from rescue mode. Okay. So from rescue mode to GUI mode. So I hope you're clear, guys. So I hope you're clear. So how to enter into the rescue mode. So now, how to recover the root password? How to recover the root password? So please concentrate. It's very, very important. Okay. So let's see here. I will teach you this. Reboot, guys. Reboot the machine first of all. almost we finished, guys. So maybe we'll have the 2 sessions for scripting. Okay. So reboot the machine. SE Linux is not there. SE Linux we are going to cover into admin part, not into this part. So it's basic Linux. Huh? So SE Linux, cron jobs, log management, these all stuff will cover into admin part. Okay. Okay. SE Linux is a security enhancer Linux. It's one security layer inside the kernel. So it will protect from the unauthorized services resources. So unauthorized services related resources. Okay. So reboot. So let's see guys here. Concentrate. So now here. So reboot the machine. So now here we need to use again E key, guys. E, small E key. So small E key. So reboot. Then small E key. Okay. And see, find out the Linux 16 line. So go to the end of the line. Okay. Here you need to write rd.break. So what we need to write, guys? So find Linux 16 line. Go to end of the line. Okay. Add rd.break. rd.break and console is equal to tty1. So you should do this. Okay. Console is equal to tty1. Okay. That's it, guys. Then Control X. ctrl plus X. Control X. So Control X will reboot. Then you will get the switch root prompt. See here, switch underscore root prompt you will get. So like this prompt you will get. Okay. So you will get like this prompt. So now here what we need to do? So find out the mount point. So mount is a command. Okay. So I'm trying to finding the mount point for root. Sys root is a root mount point. See guys here. See. RHEL root. The root directory got mounted on sys root directory. Sys root is a mount point for root directory. Okay. But it having only read only permission. It doesn't have the read and write permission. So we need to change this permission as a read and write from read only. Okay. So mount -o. Guys, please concentrate. Mount -o remount comma rw then sys root. Then hit enter. So let's verify. See. So before we'll have ro. Now it will become rw. So first of all, so we need to provide the permission for mount point as read and write. Is it? Read and write. Then next. So what we need to do? chroot then sys root, because I need to change the password for root user. So chroot sys root then hit enter. You get like this form sharp sh 4.2, that means shell 4.2. Okay. So here you can execute the shell commands. Password is a command. I'm trying to changing the password for root user. I'm providing RHEL is a password. RHEL is a password. So before I have the Red Hat, I'm trying to changing the password as a RHEL for root user. Okay. Then, so I change the password. I need to permanently. That means I need to permanently change the password. So how to change the permanently password? Like we should create one file called auto relabel. auto relabel, guys. So touch is a command to create a file. It's a one hidden file. The hidden file it will create inside the root directory, inside the forward slash. So to relabeling this password. Okay. So auto relabel, then hit enter. Then hit enter. That's it, guys. Simple. So first we need to enter into the switch root prompt, and then we should change the permissions. So from RO to RW, then so CH root, sys root. I'll do one thing. I'll keep this all stuff into the your chart box. Okay. Mount. For verification, it's not a mandatory. Okay. This is for verification. That's it. This is for verification. It's not a mandatory, but this is a mandatory step. It's a mandatory. Mount hyphen O, remount, comma RW, sys root. This is a mandatory. Okay. Again, if you want, you can repeat the same step. You can repeat the same step. Okay. So to verify for verification. Okay. Then ch root, sys root. Then so you should assign the password for root user. Then so create touch auto re auto relabel. Okay, then exit and again exit. So exit and exit. Okay, so we need to wait few minutes, and from next login onwards, the root password will change. From next login onwards, the root password will change. So this is all about boot process of RHEL 6.0 and 7.0 and how to recover the root password. So clear? So I hope you got it, guys. So tomorrow, give me 1 minute. I'll confirm with the management. So if you're okay 4 o'clock, then I'm going to inform to the management. They're going to start the session from 4 o'clock onwards. Yeah, maximum I'm going to complete tomorrow, guys. So give me 1 minute. So it will take few minutes to reboot. It will take some time. So we need to wait. Okay, guys, tomorrow we'll have the class from 4 o'clock. So I'm going to finish, maximum I'm going to finish the session tomorrow. Okay, same link. So you can use same link. So I'll show you. Monday they are going to start new batch, guys, because of that reason. Because of that reason, okay. So only one day now. So try to adjust. So actually the thing is, so from Monday onwards, new batch maybe it's maybe offline. So maximum it doesn't have the class on Saturday. If we have something like we'll discuss on next Saturday, that's it. So otherwise tomorrow I'm going to finish. 4 to up to it depends. So at least minimum 2 hours I will take. Minimum 2 hours I will take. So depends upon our requirement. I will give the break in between. So for 10 minutes like this, and you can take the break, and then you can join again. So then we'll finish. Maximum I'm trying to planning to finish tomorrow. Okay. So let's see, guys, here. So let's log in with the root user. Root, and then I change the password. RH. Yes, it's working. Okay. So like this, you need to change the root password. If you forget the root password, you should do like this. Okay. So I hope you clear, guys. So tomorrow I'm going to share this document. Don't worry. So this boot process document and this one. Okay. So along with the scripting documents also. Okay. So scripting will have few steps. I will show you. So how to take a backup. So how to create multiple user accounts. How to take a database backup. These all will discuss tomorrow. Okay. So I hope you clear, guys. Okay. So multiple questions and answers. Okay, I will share you tomorrow. Okay. Okay. So okay, guys. See you tomorrow. So bye. Take care.